incident that happened in Brazil, a radioactive tragedy in the heart of Brazil. On September 13, 1987, the bustling city of Goiânia, Brazil was struck by a tragedy that would forever alter its fate and serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of radioactive materials. The Goiânia accident, as it came to be known, involved the improper handling of a cesium-137 source, unleashing a silent menace that spread through the unsuspecting city, exposing hundreds to lethal levels of radiation and leaving an undeniable mark on the community. This presentation will delve into the details of the Goiânia accident, exploring its background, the chain of events leading to the catastrophe, its devastating consequences, and the lessons learned in its aftermath. Now, let me give you an overview. Today, the modern world is highly reliant on nuclear technology for various applications, ranging from power generation to medical treatments. While these technologies hold immense potential for progress, they also carry inherent risks if not handled with utmost care and precaution. The Goiânia accident, a radioactive catastrophe that occurred in Goiânia, Brazil, stands as a poignant reminder of the devastating consequences that can arise from the mishandling of radioactive materials. Let's focus on what happened actually. On September 13, 1987, the unsuspecting city of Goiânia, Brazil, was thrust into the heart of a radioactive nightmare. The Goiânia accident, as it came to be known, involved the improper handling of cesium-137 source, a highly radioactive material used for radiotherapy treatments. Unaware of its deadly nature, scrap metal workers dismantled the source, unleashing a silent menace that spread throughout the city, exposing hundreds of individuals to lethal levels of radiation. Further, what was the impact and how has it turned into an incident that we should always learn from? The Goiânia accident left an indelible mark on the city, not only in terms of physical and psychological trauma, but also in terms of shattered public trust and heightened concerns about the safe handling of radioactive materials. The tragedy served as a stark reminder of the critical need for stringent safety protocols, effective public education, and proactive crisis management strategies of nuclear technology. Now let's try to understand where did it originate. The Goiânia accident's roots can be traced back to the Instituto Goiânia de Radioterapia (IGR), a radiotherapy clinic established in 1974. The clinic utilized a cesium-137 source for cancer treatment, a powerful radioactive material that requires precise handling and utmost care. In 1984, the IGR ceased operations, leaving behind the cesium-137 source unguarded and unsecured within the abandoned clinic premises. The source, a hidden menace amidst the urban landscape, remained unnoticed and unattended, its radioactive potential posing a significant threat to unsuspecting individuals. The oversight and the failure. The failure to properly dispose of or secure the cesium-137 source at the IGR highlights a lapse in safety protocols and a disregard for the potential dangers associated with radioactive materials. This oversight proved to have devastating consequences as the abandoned source became the catalyst for Goiânia accident. How did the menace unveil? It started with two scrap metal workers and the discovery of the metal. In 1986, two scrap metal workers, unaware of the source's radioactive nature, stumbled upon the abandoned IGR building. Drawn by the metallic appearance of the cesium-137 source, they dismantled it, inadvertently releasing the radioactive material into the environment. The scrap metal workers' actions underscores the critical need for public awareness and education regarding the identification and handling of radioactive materials. The lack of knowledge of the source's radioactive nature led to its dismantling and the subsequent spread of contamination. This is how the silent menace was unleashed. With the dismantling of the cesium-137 source, a silent menace was unleashed onto the unsuspecting city of Goiânia. The radioactive material, invisible to the naked eye, began to spread throughout the city, carried by unaware individuals, exposing them to lethal levels of radiation. let's try to understand the spread of the contamination. Some of them were unknown and gradually it became widespread. The scrap metal workers, believing the fragments of the cesium-137 source had valuable scrap value, sold them to various junk dealers in Goiânia. These dealers, captivated by the source's eerie blue glow, displayed it in their shops and even distributed pieces to curious onlookers. As a result of the spread of the source, a total of 112,000 people were tested for radiation exposure and 249 were found to be contaminated. Further, as the fragment of the cesium-137 source circulated through the city, radioactive contamination spread far and wide. Individuals, both adults and children, unknowingly carried the contaminated material back to their homes, exposing themselves and their families to lethal levels of radiation, which further led to ignorance and misinformation. The lack of awareness and understanding about the dangers of radiation led to the widespread contamination, misinformation, and curiosity fueled the dissemination of reactive material, exposing an alarming number of individuals to its harmful effects. Further, how did the discovery of radiation exposure come into light? First signs of trouble. The first signs of trouble emerged when a neighbor of one of the scrap metal workers sought medical attention for skin lesions and burns. Medical professionals, puzzled by the unusual symptoms, dug deeper and discovered the radioactive source, triggering a flurry of panic and action. Further, there was a delay in recognition. The delayed recognition of the radioactive contamination highlights the challenges associated with identifying radiation exposure. The symptoms, often similar to common ailments, can go unnoticed or misdiagnosed, delaying the identification of the source and allowing for future further exposure. The alarming discovery. The discovery of the radioactive source sent shockwaves through Goiânia as authorities scrambled to contain the contamination and assess the extent of the damage. The realization of the widespread exposure raised fears for the health and safety of the city's residents. Further, the containment and the decontamination efforts. The emergency response. In response to the Goiânia accident, authorities enacted a swift emergency response plan, mobilizing resources to contain the radioactive contamination and decontaminated affected areas. The city was cordoned off and evacuation efforts were implemented to minimize further exposure. Some of the challenges of containment. Containing the radioactive contamination posed significant challenges due to the widespread dispersion of the cesium-137 source. Specialized personnel equipped with protective gear meticulously traced the source's path, collecting contaminated materials and decontaminating affected areas. What were some of the long-term decontamination processes? The decontamination process in Goiânia proved to be a lengthy and meticulous endeavor. Affected areas, including homes, businesses, and public spaces, underwent extensive cleaning and decontamination procedures to ensure the safety of the residents. What were some of the devastating consequences? Acute radiation syndrome. 4 individuals succumbed to acute radiation syndrome, a severe illness caused by high-dose exposure to radiation. The death served as a stark reminder of the lethal potential of radioactive materials. The median survival time for individuals who developed acute radiation syndrome was just 85 days. What were some of the long-term effects? Hundreds of individuals suffered from long-term health effects due to radiation exposure. Thyroid cancer, leukemia, and other radiation-induced ailments became a reality for many, casting a long shadow over the lives of those affected. What were some of the psychological impacts? The psychological impact of the Goiânia accident extended far beyond the physical consequences. Fear, anxiety, and the sense of betrayal pervaded the community as residents grappled with the realization that their own homes and neighborhoods had been contaminated. What are some of the lessons learned and ongoing efforts? Stringent space safety protocols. The Goiânia accidents underscored the critical need for stringent safety protocols in the handling and disposal of radioactive materials. International organizations such as the IAEA have established comprehensive safety standards and guidelines to prevent similar tragedies from occurring. What are some of the effective public education? Raising public awareness and education about radiation and its hazards is crucial to prevent accidents and minimize exposure. Public education campaigns provide essential information on identifying radioactive materials. Understanding the risks of exposure and taking some of them likely might not end up with good consequences. Further, what are some of the proactive crisis management initiatives? The importance of proactive crisis management became evident in the aftermath of the Goiânia accident. Establishing clear communication channels, designating responsible spokespersons, and developing emergency response plans are essential components of effective crisis management. The Brazilian government took steps to improve its crisis management capabilities following the Goiânia accident by establishing a national nuclear emergency response system and providing training to relevant personnel. Finally, let's conclude with some of the learnings that we have. The tragedy is a reminder. The Goiânia accident stands as a poignant reminder of the immense power of radioactive materials and the devastating consequences of mishandling. It serves as a stark warning, emphasizing the paramount importance of safety, precaution, and effective communication safeguarding human health and the environment. Some of the learnings from the past. As the world advances in the use of nuclear technology, we must learn from the mistakes of the past and take all necessary steps to prevent similar accidents from happening in the future. The Goiânia accident has fueled significant advancements in nuclear safety regulations and training. There are now stricter controls on the storage and disposal of radioactive materials, and workers who handle radioactive materials are required to undergo extensive training. The accident has also led to greater public awareness of the dangers of radiation. There are now public education campaigns about the risks of radiation exposure, and people are more likely to report suspicious materials to the authorities. Balancing progress and safety. The Goiânia accident highlights the delicate balance between technological progress and safety. While nuclear technology offers immense potential for various applications, it is crucial to prioritize safety at every stage, from development to disposal. Stringent safety protocols, effective